All right, so here we are on Wednesday, October 21st for an interview between the Flint Journal Editorial Board and mayoral candidate Karen Weaver. The purpose for this interview is for Dr. Weaver to answer questions the editorial board has as the board prepares to issue a possible endorsement in the November 3rd Flint mayoral election. Both candidates have been extended opportunities to interview with us for a possible endorsement. Members of the editorial board include the editor of the Flint Journal, Bryn Mickle, managing producer Clark Hughes, and myself, Kristen Longley, community engagement specialist for the Flint Journal Live. And I will start us off with the first question. Dr. Weaver, what experience do you have that you would say qualifies you to be Flint mayor, and what have you done that would translate into running a city?
Well, I've had a lot of experience, actually with leadership skills, managerial skills. When I first started, and I've told this story before, I started off in private practice, but from there I went to my Children's Health Center. I worked there for almost 20 years. And the last 10 years, I was director of behavioral services. I was department head, part of the management team. And when you're part of the management team, you have to help make the decisions, the day-to-day decisions as far as running the health center and maintaining the health center. And even though we had a lot of money, we still had to be fiscally responsible. We had to be disciplined and good stewards of the money. So I've had experience with, finances, staffing issues, like I said, working with other agencies and organizations, bringing different people to the table. A lot of team building as far as putting together a good team to make sure things were running smoothly. Same thing can be said with my experience at Inner Center for Children. I was the chief of operations there. And so once again, it's budgets and finances and staffing, grants, those kinds of things. And making sure I was hiring the right people around me, making sure we had a qualified, competent team to get the work done. So I've had that kind of experience. I've also had some small business experience. We started a second business in the city of Flint. And first, when my husband took over, Legal Family Dentistry, and had that open for 30 years now. So you have to know something to keep those doors open for that amount of time. And 3 years ago, we started a second small business in the city of Flint. So I have small business experience, and I've been able to understand the challenges that small businesses face, especially in Flint with the challenges that we have. I've also had a lot of community service. I'm currently on the Hurley Board of Managers, the Community Foundation, and Priority Children. And previously to that, I was on the Flint Institute of Art Board, and I was the Freedom Fund Chair for the Flint branch in NAACP. So I've got a lot of community involvement. I know people say, where's she been for 25 years? But I've been right here in Flint, providing services to children and families. I guess I should talk about my education as well. I graduated from Flint Northern, I have to say that, I'm a Viking. And then I got a bachelor's degree from Tougaloo College in psychology. I got my master's degree from Long Island University, and I got my doctorate degree in child and family clinical psychology from Michigan State University. And so really to get through a doctorate program, you have to be disciplined. You've got to be dedicated, you've got to be persistent, you have to know how to juggle some things. But after graduating, after graduate school, my career path has given me a lot of leadership and managerial experience.
All right. Well, you mentioned Mott.
Yes.
Can you explain what happened with your employment at Mott Children's Health Center?
Sure.
In a lawsuit you filed, the facility maintained it was because of lack of productivity. Why should voters not take that as an example of your leadership?
Well, I was there for almost 18 years, and I moved up the ladder. So I have a really good record at Mott. We had I should say, sometimes you part ways. And that's all I'm going to say about Mott is sometimes you part ways. Sometimes you see things differently. And you agree to disagree, and you move on like responsible people do, like mature people do. And but I have a really good track record. I was able to put a lot of services in place, and I stand behind my record at Mott, just like I stand behind my record at Inner Center for Children, just like I stand behind my record when I was an adjunct professor at Louisville and Flint, just like I stand behind my record at Shayla LBT. So that's it. That's it.
All right. What's your leadership style? How would you run the city? What kind of mayor would the people of Flint see in you?
Well, I am a good team builder. I really am. And like I said, I like to surround myself. I would be looking for the best and the brightest people for certain spots, you know, for the department head kinds of things, because that's what you have to do. And I think that a good leader is somebody that knows how to make the decision, because sometimes you have to go ahead and make the decision because the buck stops with you, but sometimes you need to have input from the others. So I like to build teams. I like to have smart people around me and work that way. Let's see, you said, what kind of leadership style do I have? Well, I'm persistent, I'll tell you that. I'm a persistent. I want things right, and I'm going to keep going until I get them right. I recognize that at the end, the buck would stop with me. I recognize that, but I like to hear from people. One of the things that I talked about probably this last week at one of the forums we were at was I want to have an open and honest and transparent kind of leadership as well. And I talked about my first year in office, what I would like to do is really have monthly town hall meetings, because I want to make decisions. I want to hear what people are saying. I want to take that in. I want them to hear what I'm saying. I want to be, like I said, open and honest and upfront with them. I want them to know, here's where we're going, here's why we're going that way. But what do you think? You know, what are your concerns? What are your issues? So I'm very open-minded. I like to listen and hear what people have to say. And some of that may be because I have a mental health background. But that's what I like to do. I like to hear input from as many parties as are necessary to make an informed decision.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just follow up.
Sure.
Why in the world do you want to be mayor?
Well, you know what? It's so funny because I've told people that I never went to bed as a young child or even as a young adult and said, when I grow up, I want to be mayor of any place. But I've always been in, well, I've been in the helping profession. Mental health is a helping profession. And so I've always known that I want to make a difference, whatever I'm doing. And I got involved, never thinking this is where I end up. You know, when people ask you at your job, where do you see yourself in 10 years or 5 years? I wouldn't have said running for mayor of the city of Flint. That wasn't it. But as I got involved and I started seeing what was going on in the city, or maybe what wasn't going on in the city, whichever way you want to take it, I couldn't help myself. I couldn't help myself. And the other thing was, I wanted to make a difference. I was born and raised here. I love Flint. I could leave if I wanted to, but I don't want to. I've chosen to stay here. We've raised our family here. We have 2 businesses here. So I'm not looking to leave. And I'm not going to sit back and complain and not try to do something about it. And so it was really interesting because people approached me, different community leaders approached me about running, and I had to think about it. I thought about it long and hard, and I wanted to hear why they thought I was qualified, why they thought I was capable, and why they believed in me. And then it was, you know, talking with my family, and we thought, you know what, if we can make a difference, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we? It's a big challenge. You know, it's not your regular 9-to-5 job, but it means that much to me. It means that much to me. Flint means that much to me. And if I can be a vessel for getting some things done in the city of Flint, if I can help to make things happen, if I can help move things forward, that's what I'm going to try to do. That I'm going to try to do it. So I talked. In addition to the people that approached me, I talked with people that had known me since I was a child, you know, whose opinion I respected, who could criticize me and do those kinds of things as well, to see what they had to say. And they believed in me, and talked with my pastor, you know, once my family got on board. So I thought about it, prayed about it, and it wasn't something that happened overnight. This was probably a couple of years ago, really, that I started getting ready and doing things to prepare myself for this. So I love Flint. I want to see Flint thrive. I believe Flint can thrive. It was just like when I opened up the store. I remember it was really kind of disappointing when someone said, why would you open up a business in Flint? And I thought, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? I mean, I live here. and I believe in Flint. So if I can make a difference, I want to do that. One of the other reasons that I'm running is I think that we haven't had a voice for the city of Flint. We've lost our voice, and no one's speaking up and speaking out on behalf of the issues that concern us. So I want to be a voice. I want to see change. And that's one of the ways I would describe myself, as a change agent. So here I am.
So what have you done to make yourself familiar with the mayor's role and city operations? Have you attended city council meetings? How many would you say, that kind of thing?
Oh, I don't know how many I've attended, but I have attended city council meetings. I've attended some of the committee meetings. I've actually met with some of the people that are working in the city to just hear what their concerns are, to hear what their issues are, for them to talking about how do things go day to day, that kind of thing. I've done some other things as well. It was funny because it was actually, as I was trying to make a decision, you asked how did I decide to do this, and I was saying I was getting ready. I remember, not this past March, but the March before, I went to a conference down in Chicago, and there were about 10 mayors from around the country that were there, and it was nice because it wasn't a large conference, so you had time to talk with them one-on-one. And so I got to meet with the mayor from Gary, Indiana, and from Philadelphia, and from Madison, Wisconsin, Oakland, California, and Portland, and like I said, there were about 9 or 10 of them, Columbus, Ohio. So I had an opportunity to sit down with them and say, okay, here's what's going on in Flint. You had something similar. How did you all do this? So I did that. I went to that. I met with some of the other mayors around the state of Michigan as well to talk with them and see what they were doing and how were they making changes and addressing issues in their cities as well. So those were some of the things that I've done. Like I said, I have gone to the meetings, and I've just been really heavily involved.
When did you first become alarmed about Flint water?
I first became alarmed, well, you know what, before we made the switch. Before we made the switch, and people were telling me, this is what we're looking at. And I thought, I said, the Flint River? I don't want to drink water from the Flint River. You know, just because I keep thinking all the things that I've seen in there, and you know, when you hear the news and you hear the stories, we just pulled this out of the Flint River. I thought, wow, okay. So it was before the switch, I was alarmed. And then, of course, as soon as the switch occurred, I was alarmed. I was alarmed then. Because I noticed some differences. So how long ago was that? That was over a year ago now. Mm-hmm. So I was concerned previous to the switch, and concerned once the switch was made. And some of the differences that I had noticed was really in my bathroom. My shower was just grungy, and I thought, I never had to clean the shower like this before. I noticed it with the clothes, and when I washed, they'd have an odor to them. Sometimes they'd come out fine, and sometimes they wouldn't. The toilet bowl, the bathtub, I noticed it in the bathroom originally. And I decided, just based on that I was going to start drinking bottled water. So I never really, was drinking the water, but I didn't know as far as cooking that it was going to be a problem. So, when we had the boil alerts, I've been concerned this entire time, actually. And I'll tell you something. It was probably a week before Virginia Tech came here. I was very concerned, but, everybody was concerned at that point. But I called a press conference, and I said that I was, if you can take off your hat as a mayoral candidate in the middle of a campaign, I don't know if you can do that for real or not, but I was taking my hat off because as a licensed child and family clinical psychologist learning about the lead, I had an ethical and a moral responsibility to speak out against that because I knew that was a public health issue. That's a mental health issue. And so that was why I called a press conference, just to talk about that, because that has such far-reaching ramifications for our young people, for our seniors as well, and other people we know, all of us. But I was very concerned, and like I said, as a licensed psychologist, it was too important to not speak out. I didn't know how you couldn't speak up and speak out on that when I look at what it does as far as mental health services and special education services and the juvenile justice system and the cost for the family, whether it's the financial burden and the stress, because it's, you know, if you have a special needs child, that's a stressful situation. I thought about the foster care system and the impact it would have there, because you see how many kids enter the foster care system without having a child with a cognitive issue. So I know that's going to impact the foster care system. And then we already need more foster parents. We're going to need more foster parents. We're going to need more school social workers, more school psychologists. So I was thinking about all of those things. So I've been alarmed for some time. So I guess the answer was before we made the switch. That was a long answer, but that was my answer. I was concerned before the switch.
So just a couple things off of that.
Mm-hmm.
So looking back on it, because I believe you had the press conference September 8th.
Okay.
Looking back on it, do you think you should have raised that call earlier, earlier on in the process, if you had the concerns, or was there a specific tipping point for you?
Well, you know what, I'll tell you what happened. I got my water tested, and I got it tested by the city of Flint, and when it came back, my results came back okay. When Virginia Tech came and tested it, I was high for lead.
Okay. When was that?
You know, I have to look in my phone, but I do have a picture of those results if you'd like to see them. And I may have sent them to Ron, I'm not sure, but and I posted them on my Facebook page. So.
Was that lead test before the September 8th press conference?
It was, no, I hadn't gotten my results yet. I was waiting. But it was so ironic that I got both of them the same day. The same day I got the Flint ones. And I said, okay, this is interesting.
They contradicted each other.
Yes, yeah, they did. And, people were speaking out. And I was standing with people that were speaking out. And so I said, you know what, I've got to say something and it was funny because when I did the press conference, I understood that I wasn't an elected official. Like I said, I was doing it because I believe I have a moral and ethical responsibility to do that. And so that's what I did. But I had been speaking out and walking with the people and being there at those meetings and talking about that and supporting them. So that was what I chose to do.
Just to switch gears just a little bit, what's your position on city manager form of government that has been proposed for Flint in the past?
Well, I believe in a strong mayor form of government.
Okay.
I do, and it goes back to one of the reasons I said that I was running, was because I believe that we haven't had a voice, and we haven't had a voice for quite some time. We've had emergency managers in here, and I believe that we're violating the charter right now. You know, we have been violating this charter, and our democracy has been taken, and our voice has been taken, and I think that's a tragedy. I think it is, because we voted. We elected people. And we elected people to represent us. So I believe in a strong mayor form of government. I do understand that we have a charter review committee right now, and people will get to vote on whatever it is they put forward. And then you go by what is voted on. You go by what's voted on. So I like strong mayor form. I believe that's a good way to have representation. I think that's something that's been taken from us, and I've been in disagreement with it. I've always spoken out about that I disagree with it. And that was one of my issues when I talked about not having a voice, because I understand that an emergency manager. I understand that, but I also believe that even if you can't do anything because an emergency manager is in place, nobody takes your voice. You know, you always can open your mouth and talk. Even if it's saying, I disagree with them, I wouldn't do that. Here's what I would do. I know they're going to do whatever they're going to do, but let me tell you what I'm going to do. But having said that, I understand that we have a city manager there right now. We've got the RTAB in place right now. So when I'm elected, my plan is to work with people. gotta work with people, because that's the only way we're gonna get anything accomplished, is to be able to be professional and to continue to work to move the city forward. I do believe that we can look at what are the issues that are facing us and how do we work together on those issues, because there ought to be things that we can agree on. This is what we want for Flint. This is what we want for Flint. This is the direction that we want to go. And I would hope that we could put personalities and personal issues aside and work on the issues that need to be addressed. So, okay.
Going back to water again.
Okay.
So in your view, who is to blame for the Flint water crisis?
I don't think there's one person to blame. I think there's a whole lot of them to blame. It seems like there's enough blame to go around. There's enough blame to go around. But yeah, am I holding city officials responsible? Some of them I am. Do I hold the mayor accountable for that? Because I'm going back to what I talked about earlier as far as you can say that there was an emergency manager in place, but you can still talk. You can still talk. And I don't like to hear that, well, I had reservations, but I didn't voice them. Voice them. You know, that's what we elected you to do, voice your reservations if you have any. And it's just, and I blame him because every day he said, I drink this water. My family and I drink this water. This water is okay. We're not going back to Detroit. And when people are telling me that I'm breaking out, my hair is falling out, the water is brown, it stinks, I've got to clean my bathroom and my sinks more than I ever had to before, then check it out. You know, and there should have been some due diligence done before we made that switch. So yeah, that's one of the people that I hold accountable. You know, we needed corrosion control in place. You know, for a city that's 50,000 or more, you're supposed to have that. And I don't care if your boss tells you it's okay to not do it or not. You know what the law is, and we're supposed to be law-abiding citizens. So you're supposed to speak up about something like that. You're supposed to do that. You don't take a job for the paycheck. You shouldn't just take it for the paycheck when you're there to protect and serve people. You know, that's what we elected you to do, to protect and serve us. So speak up about that. So I do hold them accountable. I hold the state accountable. So there's enough blame to go around because nobody, it seems like the people were being dismissed. And, you know, it was the grassroots effort of the people complaining about the water. Then pastors started, you know, they jumped on board with it. And then for Virginia Tech to be discounted with their results and saying they don't know what they're doing, I think that's absolutely awful. And then it wasn't until the medical community spoke up and spoke out. And now all of a sudden, we can go back to Detroit. I had concerns, but that's not what you told us. That's not what you told us. And this is a man-made disaster that's happened here in Flint. It wasn't a natural disaster. It wasn't an accident where a ship was out on the ocean that had, that was an oil tanker and an accident happened. This was something that didn't have to happen. If I go to my doctor and I say my hair is falling out, I'm breaking out, and I would hope they're going to say, let me get some blood tests, we're going to do some extra, we're going to do some things. But not, I don't think you're going to tell me, go home and keep doing what you've been doing. Everything is okay. When I am picking up hair, when I have rashes on my skin, I don't think any doctor is going to say, just go home and keep doing what you're doing. And the people were discounted. People were discounted. And it took over a year and a half for the voices to be heard. And I'm glad people didn't give up on that. I really am. And it's just amazing to me that in 2015, people are begging and crying for clean and affordable water. Clean and affordable water. So there's a lot of blame to go around. There's a lot of blame to go around.
Mm-hmm. So I think you answered sort of what my next question would have been.
Because I talk a lot. I talk a lot.
Which is, what do you think the mayor should have done at the time? And you're saying speak out? Is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, because if you're saying that the emergency manager had full control, yeah, speak up. Say, I disagree with the emergency manager. Here's what I think we should be doing. I know that corrosion control should be in place for a city of 50,000 or more. Heck, if I can read it, if the citizens can read that, we know that's the law. And I even talked with certain people that are working there. I said, didn't you know that? Well, yeah, but the state told us. But you knew it. You knew it as well. So, and that's my position is, sometimes when the person in charge, I mean, if they're giving you bad advice, you know what you're supposed to do, especially when it's impacting lives. This is impacting lives. And so it's not just, well, they got the deal and this other group didn't get this deal. This is bigger than that because we have kids that, you know, we may have damaged a generation of 6 years old and under, of 6 years old and under. And that's a problem. That's a problem. So yeah, I think you should have spoken out. Just like some of those other staff people that knew it should have spoken out. You know, just because he didn't, then, okay, you're the next one down and you said you knew it too. Why didn't you say something? I mean, yeah, you should have spoken out.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that you've had a chance to look at some of the different operations in Flint and sort of how they're working. As you look at the police department, you know, for example, how do you rate the job that Chief Tolbert is doing, and would you look at keeping him on in a Mayor Weaver administration?
Well, I've met with the police department, just like I met with the fire department as well, and they both gave me endorsements. And tell me the second part of your question, how would I do what?
Would you keep Chief Tolbert on in a Mayor Weaver administration?
I don't know what I would do. At this point, I'd be looking to sit down, because one of the first things I'd like to do when I get in is I want to meet with those different, department heads and the fire chief, the police chief. I want to meet with all of them and get some feedback about what's going on and ask certain questions. I want to look at the budget and see what's there and where, all of the different budgets, because we need to know about that as well. I'd like to hear from them. I'd like to not only hear from the police chief, but I'd like to talk with some of the police officers and say, okay, now what's going on here? What do they see as the issues? It's interesting because I said, I'm not a police chief. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a fire chief. So I'm looking for some input from them. But one of the things I do know is we got to do something for our police department. We've got to do something for them because we all know they're understaffed, just like we know fire is understaffed. And if they can't be safe, we can't be safe. And so we've got to attend to their needs. We've got to make things better for them. It seems like Flint has become a training ground for a lot of things. So because we're high in crime, people can come through our police department and get trained really, really well, and then go someplace else and make more money and not be in such a violent environment. Same can be said for fire. And so we've got to do something. We've got to work with them because we don't want to keep losing young officers going someplace else, leaving the city of Flint. One of the other things that they've talked about is, we don't have very many local police officers on the street at all, and that shouldn't be. And so we've got to get more police officers, and there's things that we could be doing to get more. But we need to bring people to the city. We need to keep people in the city. One of the other things that they've talked about that they're very interested in doing, and it's something that is being done just on a very, very tiny scale, but we were looking at community policing as well. That's something that we have to do. We need more detectives. We need more undercover. We need to bolster up our police department. We need to look at why aren't we keeping them, in addition to what are their benefits looking like? What is the overtime, the time off, those kinds of things. But we've really got to work closely with the police department. I'd be really interested in to sit down with Tolbert. I haven't had this kind of in-depth, in-detail conversation with him, but I'm willing to do that because like I said, I need to do that with everybody when I get into office. I even want to meet with the union leaders as well, those presidents, and hear what they have to say. Because I don't want to make any decision in isolation. I don't want to say, well, this is what I think the police department should be like. They need to tell me. But I do know we've got to get more officers. We need to be able to get a grant writer really an A-plus grant writer, because there are so many grants out there that are available for cities like Flint for police and fire, where we could be getting them the equipment that they need, the new equipment that they need. So we need to see what's going on. I know one of the concerns with the police department is what happened to the millage money, because it was never presented as this is just to maintain positions. It wasn't presented that way to the public. And everyone that I've spoken with has said their expectation was more fire, more police. Even when I talk with the police officers, that's what I hear. So it's also looking at what happened to that. Why didn't the police and the community get what they were expecting with voting for that millage, with passing that? So I will be sitting. I'm anxious to sit down with them. I'm anxious to say, okay, what do we need to do? What is it you all need for you to be safe, to keep us safe? I know there's some simple things that we could be doing. Just to, as I was walking, and on quite a few streets, they didn't have street lights. Police officer said, I had to go over there for a shooting. I can't see. Well, if the neighbors can't see, the police can't see. If the grass is this tall, they don't know if someone's in the grass. So it's almost like they're not safe doing their job, trying to keep us safe. So I'm looking forward to working with the police officers and the chief to see what do we need to do to bring crime down. I have some other ideas too, but
Well, I think that
unless
leads
you want me to just keep talking about it.
Kind of leads into, just so I can clarify, do you have any idea on how many more police are needed? I know you said you want to talk to.
Right, well, and that's what I need to find out, because sometimes you have to decide, well, we know we need more patrol, but you have to really balance that out, because the other thing they've talked about is we need more undercover, we need more detectives, because one of the things we looked at is we have 10,000 unresolved complaints that are sitting there. 10,000, and while we can say we do need a more engaged, active community helping out and letting us know what's going on, but we know we need more undercover as well. Those complaints that are sitting there, it seems like that's one of the issues I've talked about as far as there being a broken trust, because I'm making these complaints and nothing happens. Well, they don't have the staffing to be able to address all this, and we need to be treating them differently. We need to be treating those kinds of issues differently. So if we could get more detectives, if we could get more undercover, we could address some of those issues, because some of those same people, they keep doing things. The neighbors keep saying, that's the one that did this, that's the one that was standing there doing this. They identify them, but we don't have the manpower or the people power, as far as the police go, to be able to get in there. The other thing I was thinking about was when you're looking at crimes like B&Es or home invasions, we need to do something instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to come out and give you a complaint now. We need to treat those complaints differently. Let's go in there and sweep for fingerprints and footprints and bring dogs in. But we don't have the people power to be able to do that. So that's something that I'd be asking. I have had that number, but I know we're very understaffed with police. And the other thing, since you brought it up with police, is I was at the city council meeting when they took money from fire to hire 5 more police officers. When I meet with the police officers, they said, we don't have 5 more police officers. So, what's going on and where is that money? But that's what I would want to find out from them is, okay, what do we need to have to get this done? What do we need to have? And that's where I said, talking about, I wouldn't be making those decisions in isolation, but I know there's a certain number based on the population, and we're not there.
Well, and how would you pay for more police or more fire if you needed?
Well, one of the things that we need to do is there's money out there that we haven't really been getting, and I'd have to say there are back taxes that are owed that we haven't collected on. There are licenses that we haven't people haven't renewed their licenses. There's money that way. Another thing I've thought about is for people that live outside of the city but are working on the city and we're using our tax dollars to pay them, we could increase increase that maybe equal to what the people in the city of Flint are paying. The other thing is, we've been tearing homes down, but we haven't been building them up. And we need to build up our neighborhoods, because we've got to do some things differently. We've got to keep the people that are in Flint, and then we've got to bring new people to Flint. And if we don't have places for them to live, they're not going to be here. I think about what's going on in Michigan State. We've got Michigan State, medical school here. A lot of those residents, a lot of people that work downtown, they might want to live downtown, but we don't have enough apartments, townhouses. We don't have those kinds of things available here. We need more of those. So they've gone to Grand Blanc, or they've gone to Flushing or Swartz Creek, and they could be right here with us, living in the city of Flint. And you're just making me think of all these things, because one of the other things I talked about is I met with the Landlord Association. One of the times I was out walking, the lady said, I own these 4 houses and I'm renting them. And the neighbors were so happy because it keeps the neighborhood up, it keeps crime down, it helps with the blight that's going on. And so we've got to work with them, because we're tearing some of these homes down, and we have homes that can be fixed up, but there's a problem as far as what's going on with the landlords and building inspections. And so we've got to work on that and get that working better, make working more smoothly. There seems to be some kind of hold up or bog down where it takes a long time for that to go through. And so then they lose tenants, or the house gets stripped, or the windows are broken. And so we've got to do something there as well, because that brings tax revenues in. And that's how we get money. So we need to be more small business friendly. We need to work with those landlords, because they have houses in our community where we can have people living. And it creates jobs. It creates jobs. So that's another way to get it. But if people continue to leave, we're not going to get those taxes, that money. So we've got to do some things differently. We've got to, and also you're talking about how do we build up our tax base? Well, we've got to clean up our home. We've got to address the water issue. We've got to address the crime issue. We've got to look at the blight and our housing situation. Those are the things that we have to do. But I think we need to promote ourselves better as well, because I know we've got a lot of issues. But it was just like I said, well, I still believe in Flint. I think things can happen for Flint. I think we need to promote ourselves a little bit better, because we have some good things. If we take care of some of these other things, we have good things that could attract businesses, that could attract people. Because, if you have a business that needs shipping and freight, we've got the airport. We've got Bishop Airport, we've got 2 major railways, we've got the expressways, we've got these hospitals, we've got these wonderful colleges and universities. So we have some things. We've got a lot of land, too. So we have some things that we can, so we need to promote ourselves as well. But we've got a clean house. We've got a clean house. We've got to take care of some things. We really do. Because, if we would do those things, it would also, it would help our schools. If we don't have our schools in order, we don't get families that want to stay here, and we don't bring new families here into the city of Flint. So we've just got to be more creative and think about some things differently. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I told you I could just.
So we're right.
I know.
I'd just like to jump a little bit out of order, because I think you touched on a lot of issues in there, which raises the question for me. When you look at the schools, when you look at crime, when you look at water, what would you tell somebody on why they should come to Flint, to bring their family to Flint, or to bring their business to Flint? With those 3 things that got widespread attention in the negative column, why come to Flint?
Well, because it's just like I said, I believe in Flint. We've got some challenges, but there are some good things that are happening in our city. Look at downtown. Downtown is wonderful. I like downtown. We want to continue to build downtown. So we've got some things going on there. You look at Kettering, that's how they're building up Kettering and U of M, and we've got one of the best community colleges in the country right here in Flint. So we have some things. We have, like I said, we have business opportunities available. And so it's a great place to come and start a business. And really, believe it or not, we know that we're going to have to address this infrastructure. When we address the infrastructure, that's going to create jobs as well. So if we can do those things, Flint won't be so bad. Flint will not be so bad. And the other thing is, you know, when I think about if we do those things, what I was going to say is we help the schools. I know the mayor's office isn't directly responsible for the Flint Community Schools. Those are two separate, distinct entities with governing bodies. But if we take care of those things, if we take care of home, we help the schools because we keep people here, we bring people here. And one of the other things I thought about was when you're looking at what do we do, what's another way to attack it? Because we know you start with the center, which is downtown, and you hope things grow out. But one of the things that I think I would be doing is talking with the school, trying to partner with the schools to see what are the schools you guys are trying to keep open. What schools do you have a stable neighborhood or a somewhat stable neighborhood, and start working over there as well. Because, okay, you want to keep that school open? Then let's talk to some of those landlords that are over there that have homes over there. Get those things fixed up. Get them fixed up. Let's get some people in there. I think we could do some more partnering with some of the businesses and more public-private partnerships, and saying, okay, maybe it's Live, maybe it's the chamber, maybe it's, you know, different businesses around the community saying, okay, well, we're going to adopt that park over there in that neighborhood as well. We're going to start doing some things to fix it up. I know where I am, when the grass couldn't get cut for the park, we were able to, okay, everybody's just going to chip in and get this stuff cut. But every place can't do that. But we could start looking at how do we partner. We've got to have some more public-private partnerships going on to help us with these issues. But like I said, I believe Flint can dry again. And I believe our water is going to get taken care of. It's going to, I mean, we've got challenges there, but if we do some of those things, why wouldn't you want to come to Flint? It's really going to be a city of opportunity. That's what I see happening. Otherwise, I wouldn't run. Because I just believe it's going to be a city of, you know, for great opportunity, especially, like I said, when you look at these colleges and universities that we have, when you look at these hospitals that we have, when you look at the opportunity to bring a business here. If we address the crime and do some things differently in our water, it's going to be great.
Now, just going back to the police issue, public safety issue,
Okay.
Would you be in favor of keeping the state police that are here in Flint to the extent that they are here?
You know, I appreciate that we have state police here helping out, because we don't have enough police officers, and we all know that. So we need all the help that we can get. But I'm still in favor of we need more local police. We need more of our local police, because if we're really looking and if we're being serious about combating crime, we need local police that can do those, that community policing, that can go in that neighborhood, that can build those kinds of relationships, because that's what you have to have. The state police aren't here for that. They're here for something else. They're here to do another part of the job. So we're happy to have that kind of help because we need it. But I still believe we need more of our own local police in here doing some things, because I think that's going to be how we make things better as far as crime in the city of Flint, and how we're going to be able to attack crime in the city of Flint. It's when this police officer knows that kid or that teenager. But, you know, the other thing we need to do as far as local policing, and I think I'm probably going back to something you brought up earlier, and I apologize, but we've got to attack. We've got way too many drug houses in the city of Flint. We've got way too many, and so we need police to be able to do that. We need some covert, undercover kinds of things going on. And one of the things I thought about was when I was thinking about those houses that we were talking about in certain neighborhoods and those landlords. When we get police officers, I know they've done it in Detroit and other places where part of they give them an incentive to live in a certain neighborhood. help us with some of these things, help us attack this crime. So I think we just need to look at some of those things. So am I against the state police? I'm not against them, because we need the help that they've provided, but we need our own local police.
Okay, back to community development.
Okay.
Let's say that my 20-something daughter is in an elevator with you. You got 60 seconds to sell her on the idea of living in Flint. What would you say?
She's how old?
Mid-20s.
Mid-20s, oh, okay. Well, I tell her, because I have a 20-something-year-old daughter, and so I have this conversation, and probably what I tell her is, well, depending on if she's finished with school or not. I mean, because this is it's a great place, and we're really building up this college town that's going on, and doing things to keep younger people here. And I just believe with the colleges, the universities, Michigan State, it's a great place if you want to be an entrepreneur, and we have the chamber doing certain things. That this is the place to try some things out. It really is. And we need those young brains here. We need them here. And I think that it's a ripe opportunity for them. I really do. It's a wonderful time to come to Flint and to spread your wings and try to do some things. Because really, depending on what she's doing, I might say, look, I need you to talk to me and be part of something. Because we've got to keep our young people here. I just hate that we're losing them, because they seem to be, they're like our most valuable resource, and they leave. And we've got to give them some things to come back to. We need young people to be here to help us with that. We really do, because I can't think of what they're going to want to do. I might be able to think of some of those kinds of things, but we need that age group here helping us build something that attracts them, that keeps them interested in being here. So help us. Help us be part of the solution. Help us be part of making your friends want to come. Help me. How do I keep my kids here if I want them to be here? And I just think we've kind of failed them in that area. So I think we need to bring them in here. We need to keep them in here. We need to have them working with us and being part of the solution. I remember when I was that age, well, we had more things going on as far as just places you could go that were safe to go, as far as, you know, if you wanted to go out and have fun. And we need to have some of those kinds of things that are appropriate for that age group. Help us come up with what are some more of those things we can be doing. I need your help. So come sit down, let's talk. Here's another group of young people, let's get together. But I think we've kind of left them out in a lot of the talking and the planning and the moving forward to say, what do we do to keep you all here? What kinds of things do we have to have that you will come here, that you'll tell your friend to come here, or if you go away to school, you'll come back here. So I'd be asking for some help and saying, talk to me. What would keep you here? What would keep your friends here?
Okay. Regarding running the city and sort of the day-to-day operations, how familiar would you say you are with municipal budgeting? What have you done to familiarize yourself with that at all? Have you had much, I mean, just getting to know it, have you been able to talk with people? And I know you haven't worked in the city.
I know, but I have had the opportunity. I don't know if I want to say sat down with, but I have had the opportunity to go through and start looking at some of that. Okay. I sure have, because that's very important. That's very important. And really, if we can't do that, well, it's part of how we end up in receivership. We're financial issues, financial concerns. So that's why I said not my first day, but one of the first things I do when I got into office is I need to sit down with those department heads. I need to go through the budget and see what's there and how money's, where it's being spent, and where, is that where we want to keep things going. But that would be one of the first things I do. I've also talked about, do we need to have a forensic audit to see, okay, what's happened to some of this money? Where's it been going? What's been going on with that? So those are some of the things that I have been looking at, and I have had an opportunity to have conversation with some people about that. This in court, why are you utilizing an outside firm to fight a still that you won't pay $450 an hour? to a firm out of Detroit. I'd ask that question when if you're gonna fight us, get an attorney in Flint, pay them. You know, why did we get police trucks not from Applegate and go somewhere else? Why aren't we taking care of home? That'd be it. Good for starters. Because you said just two, didn't you?
I did,
A couple
yeah.
of questions.
Yeah.
So I have a list, but those are the ones that come
I understand.
right to mind.
Any other questions from the board?
Just, my standard last questions. Is there
What is
anything
it?
that we have not touched on that you want to address?
I don't know. I don't believe so. I just, if I'm closing, I just want to say that, I'm excited about the job. I'm looking forward to working with people. I'm looking forward to having a really good team put in place to move forward with, and take care of the city. I'm not a person that's afraid. I do speak my mind. And I just want to be a voice for change. I want to be a voice for change. And I'm ready. I'm ready to go to work. I said, it's funny because some people say, that's what you want to do? And I have to tell them, I said, well, I know I must really want to do this because I could be at the store selling natural products. It's so nice in there. But it was just something, like I said, where once I got involved, I couldn't help it. I couldn't help myself. My husband said, where are you going now? I said, well, I'm going to this meeting, or I'm going to this event. And he just said, he said, okay, go ahead, just go ahead. And I told him, I said, I can't help it. I can't help it. And I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't believe that I could make a difference for Flint, for my home. So that's why I'm here.
I do have one other question, and I'm always curious. So, if you went, day one when you get in, what's the first thing you do? And I understand, you have to look at everything, but what's your top priority as far as the first thing that you do that the voters would actually feel the effect of right off? Is there any policy change you would seek? Any change that way that you would put as your number one priority?
Wow, that's a good question. No one's asked me that particular question. The very first thing I do? I'm not sure. I really would have to get in there and see what's going on. I'd be setting up a meeting the first day to start talking with, like I said, with those different department heads and getting some information, because I'm really not one that's going to make a quick decision if I need to, but there's been so much going on in Flint that I don't think I need to see what's going on. I really would.
Okay, just sort of to follow up on that a little bit, you had said earlier that you like to surround yourself with good people, and you're about building those relationships, team building. So do you have an idea of either people that you would put in positions, or the types of people or positions that you would bring into City Hall, whether it's a type or a name?
I don't have any names, because it was just, like I said, I haven't had conversations with certain people to say, okay, I want you to be part of the team. So I would be fair, and I would want to talk with all of those different people and meet with them and see what's going on first. But I'd be asking for some explanations. That'd be one of the first things I'd be doing, is asking certain people, if you knew this was the law, why didn't it happen? That'd be one of the first things I'd do. If you knew this was the law, what happened that it wasn't followed? Please explain that to me. But no, I don't have names. I don't have any names at this point.
All right. Anything else?
No. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Look, thank you for giving me some different times.
Oh.
I was